Jordan Anthony shocked the sprinting world by defeating Noah Lyles at the World Championships the very first time he had ever traveled outside the United States. And after stepping off the track in Poland, Noah Lyles had something very interesting to say about the young athlete who had just taken the spotlight from him. But before we get to that moment, you need to know where Jordan Anthony's journey really began. Because this story doesn't begin inside a stadium or on a running track. It begins in a tiny town that most people have never even heard of, with a kid who was never expected to become a sprinter at all. By the end of this video, you'll understand why what happened in Poland in March 2026 could go down as one of the craziest moments sprinting has seen in the past 10 years. Tylertown, Mississippi, a town with roughly 1,800 residents. There was no sprinting tradition, no Olympic pathway, and no legendary athletes who had paved the way before him. It was simply a quiet southern town where football dominated Friday nights, and almost everything else faded into the background. Growing up, Jordan Anthony loved one sport above all else: football. He played wide receiver, relying on his speed, strength, and competitive nature. His talent eventually earned him a scholarship to the University of Kentucky, and for someone coming from Tylertown, that was the dream. He had made it out, earned a college opportunity, and was living the future he had always imagined. Then everything changed. Not in a symbolic way, literally. While at Kentucky, Jordan Anthony suffered a fractured hip. The injury forced him to miss nearly half of the football season. Instead of being on the field with his teammates, he found himself watching from the sidelines, wondering if his body would ever allow him to compete at that level again. Think about being 17 or 18 years old. You've left your hometown, earned a scholarship, and finally achieved the goal you've chased for years. Then suddenly, a serious injury brings everything to a halt. Most athletes in that situation focus only on recovery. They go home, complete rehab, and hope their coaches still believe in them once they're healthy. Jordan Anthony took a different path. He started running track. Not because he had always dreamed of becoming a sprinter. Not because he believed track would become his future. He simply knew he was fast, wanted to compete, and the opportunity was there. In February 2022, he competed in the indoor 60 meters and ran 6.70 seconds. To put that into perspective, that's already an outstanding time. Faster than many college athletes who have spent years training exclusively for sprinting. For Jordan, though, it was simply a way to stay active and keep his competitive spirit alive. Here's the challenge of being known as a football player who also happens to be fast on the track. People rarely take you seriously as a sprinter. You're viewed as a novelty. People look at you and say, sure, he's fast, but he's a football player. He doesn't have proper sprint mechanics. He hasn't built years of technical training. He didn't grow up doing this like the real sprinters. Jordan Anthony kept proving those opinions right one moment and wrong the next. During that time, he transferred from Kentucky to Texas A&M and later from Texas A&M to Arkansas, 3 different universities in only a few years. At each school, he balanced football and track, dividing both his time and energy, without fully committing to either one. Even so, his performances on the track continued to impress. In June 2022, at just 17 years old, he captured the USA Under-20 Outdoor Championship in the 200 meters. That achievement should have made headlines everywhere. Instead, he skipped the World Under-20 Championships because they conflicted with football training camp. He chose football. That decision revealed exactly how Jordan Anthony viewed his future at that stage of his life. Football was still the priority. Track was simply something he happened to be really good at. Because he never devoted himself completely to sprinting, the world almost missed seeing what he was truly capable of becoming. He continued moving between sports and schools while the sprinting community barely noticed him. To many people, he looked like another talented college athlete with raw speed who would eventually fade away once the full-time sprint specialist took over. That's what everyone believed. Everything changed after he arrived at Arkansas. The coaching staff watched him train and eventually had a conversation that completely redirected his career. They told him something simple but powerful. You aren't a football player who runs track. You're a sprinter who's been wasting his talent playing football. Those words weren't easy to hear. Football had been the sport he loved since childhood. It earned him his scholarship. It shaped his identity throughout his teenage years. Jordan Anthony thought carefully about what they said. Then he made the biggest decision of his athletic career. He stopped attending spring football practices and informed the coaching staff that he was committing fully to track. There would be no backup plan, no second option, only sprinting and complete belief that Arkansas's coaches were right about the athlete he could become. The impact was almost immediate. Jordan Anthony went to work. In February 2025, he won the 60-meter title at the SEC Indoor Championships, widely regarded as the toughest conference in American college track and field. He defeated athletes who had spent their entire lives specializing in sprinting. 1 month later, in March 2025, he claimed the NCAA Indoor Championship in the 60 meters, officially becoming the top collegiate indoor sprinter in the country. Then came the outdoor season. He captured the NCAA Outdoor Championship in the 100 meters with a time of 10.07 seconds. 2 national championships in the same year, one indoors and one outdoors. Jordan Anthony had established himself as the best college sprinter in America. Soon afterward, he announced that he was turning professional. Then, early in 2026, before the World Indoor Championships, he competed at the USATF Indoor Championships and produced a stunning 6.45-second performance in the 60 meters. He defeated Trayvon Bromell, a sprinter who had previously run 9.76 seconds for the 100 meters. He also defeated Noah Lyles, the Olympic champion, multiple-time world champion, and arguably the biggest name in global sprinting. Suddenly, everyone in the sprinting world was asking the same question. Who exactly is Jordan Anthony? To Noah Lyles' credit, he didn't ignore what had happened. Instead, he welcomed Anthony into his training group and began working alongside him. And what Lyles later said about Jordan during practice revealed everything about how highly he now regarded the young sprinter. According to Noah Lyles, Jordan Anthony is one of the best trash talkers he's ever trained with. He says Jordan brings a football mindset onto the track, making every training session more competitive, more intense, and more enjoyable while pushing everyone around and perform at a higher level. Think about who is saying that. This is Noah Lyles, the athlete who has spent years confidently calling himself the world's best sprinter. Yet even he is energized by training alongside Jordan Anthony. Something special was clearly beginning to take shape, but there was one major concern. Anthony had never competed outside the United States. He had never appeared at a global championship. He had never represented his country on the international stage. In fact, he had never even left America, not for a vacation, not for a competition, not even once. When the World Indoor Championships arrived in Tarunia, Poland, in March 2026, it would be his first flight ever, his first visit to Europe, his first experience racing against athletes who had spent years competing at the highest international level. These were sprinters who understood the pressure of world championship finals, athletes who already knew how to stay calm when medals were on the line. Jordan Anthony had never experienced any of that, and the field he was facing wasn't filled with unknown names. He was about to race some of the fastest 60-meter specialists in the world, athletes who had dedicated their entire careers to preparing for moments exactly like this. Nobody questioned his talent anymore. By now, everyone knew Jordan Anthony had elite ability. The real question was something else. Could a 21-year-old from Tylertown, Mississippi, a former football player who had never traveled outside his home country, board his first flight, arrive in Poland, step into a world championship final, and handle the biggest moment of his life without letting the pressure overwhelm him? Even many of the people supporting him weren't completely convinced. Then came March 20th, 2026. Tarunia, Poland. Jordan Anthony walked into a stadium he had never seen before, in a country he had never visited before, preparing for the biggest race of his career in front of thousands of spectators who barely knew his name. He was also one of the youngest athletes in the final. He settled into the starting blocks. The gun fired. 6.41 seconds. World champion. Take a moment to appreciate what that means. On the very first trip outside the United States, Jordan Anthony defeated a field full of experienced international sprinters. The finish was incredibly close, with multiple athletes separated by only fractions of a second as they battled for the remaining medals. But one athlete crossed the line first, Jordan Anthony. The commentators could hardly believe what they had witnessed. Only minutes earlier, much of the crowd didn't even know who he was. Now the entire stadium was on its feet. Meanwhile, Noah Lyles, the athlete Jordan had been training with, joking with, and competing against during practice, the man expected to remain the face of American sprinting, was not standing on top of the podium. Jordan Anthony was. After the race, Noah Lyles shared words that perfectly captured the moment. He explained that he and Jordan constantly pushed each other during training, exchanging plenty of trash talk, while keeping everything competitive and fun. Lyles even joked that sprinting becomes boring when athletes stop talking. He said Jordan brings a football mentality into every workout. Then he laughed and said that the only thing he himself was bringing these days was old age. Think about that. One of the most confident sprinters in modern history, looked at Jordan Anthony and joked about getting older. That isn't how someone reacts when they don't respect an opponent. That's how someone reacts when they recognize a future champion standing right beside them. Jordan Anthony later responded during an interview with NBC Sports. He said he enjoys training with Noah Lyles and described it as a relationship that benefits both athletes. Of course, he admitted, they're always going to exchange a little trash talk. Then he smiled and fired back. Lyles is just bringing old age right now. Imagine that scene. A 21-year-old athlete from a town of only 1,800 people in Mississippi. A young man who had never even been on an airplane before, standing in Poland as the new world champion, looking directly at Noah Lyles and joking that he's getting old. That moment says everything. But there's another detail that's even more remarkable than the time itself. When Jordan Anthony arrived in Poland for the World Indoor Championships, it marked the very first flight of his entire life. Now compare that with the athletes he defeated. Most of them had been traveling internationally since their teenage years. They had already competed across Europe, Asia, and South America. They knew how to recover after long flights. They understood how to adapt to different time zones. They were completely familiar with the routines and atmosphere of major global championships. Jordan Anthony had experienced none of it. He stepped off an airplane for the very first time, entered a country he had never seen before, and then ran 6.41 seconds to become the fastest indoor sprinter in the world. The same athlete who fractured his hip while playing college football. The same athlete who transferred between 3 different universities. The same athlete who once skipped a World Under-20 championship because football still came first. That athlete is now the world indoor champion at only 21 years old. And the scary part? He probably hasn't reached his peak yet. The outdoor season is next. The 100 meters. The 200 meters. Direct battles with Noah Lyles on the biggest stages in the sport. Then comes Los Angeles 2028. An Olympic Games held on American soil in front of a home crowd. Jordan Anthony will be only 24 years old. And if his performance in Poland is any indication of what's ahead, the debate over who will become the next face of American sprinting may already have its answer. Now I want to hear your opinion. Picture the men's 100-meter final at the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics. The home crowd is roaring. Everything is on the line. Does Jordan Anthony win Olympic gold and become the leading American sprinter for the next decade? Or does Noah Lyles still have one more championship run left in him? Leave your prediction in the comments. I read every one of them. And if you want a complete breakdown of Jordan Anthony's upcoming outdoor season, make sure you're subscribed, because that video is coming very soon.